Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in AML. I'm John Byrne, Chair of the AMLRS Advisory Board.
And I'm Elliot Berman, our Creative Director. We are excited to welcome you to the This Week in AML podcast,
where we explore key news and developments in the global financial crime prevention community.
Hi, John. How are you this week?
Hey, Elliot. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Very happy that young people decided to vote yesterday in the United States in large numbers, because we know that you and I vote all the time, but it's really nice to see the younger generation vote. So that part was very encouraging, and so some things will continue to play out in the U.S. and in the Senate and the House. But just in general, I think people did take their obligations seriously, and that's always a good thing.
Agreed. Our daughter took our 7-year-old granddaughter with her to vote, took her into the booth, actually probably violated some rule by allowing her to fill in one of the circles. But when I saw our granddaughter late yesterday afternoon, she was wearing a future voter sticker and very proud of it.
That's great. My youngest daughter, Jen, who, as you know, lives in Milwaukee, did some ballot counting last night. So she worked for about 12 hours. So she did her job. So that was.
Yeah, that's terrific. This week, the Treasury Department announced sanctions against a number of internet-based suppliers of illicit fentanyl and other synthetic drugs. I assume you saw that press release?
Yeah, I did. I think, because we've talked about this at the partnership forum. We've referenced this with our law enforcement partners on webinars and podcasts. Obviously, the horrific amounts of fentanyl in the U.S. and just globally continue to challenge everybody. And to see this particular activity being done in a coordinated fashion made it especially interesting. So it was U.S. with other countries, and the Treasury Department with OFAC, with Homeland Security, DEA. So definitely a major collaborative effort.
Yes, and that's something that before we started the recording, you and I chatted about that. Just like the Ukraine or the Russian sanctions related to the invasion of Ukraine, coordinated effort seems to be the most effective. So it's interesting to see that that OFAC and the Treasury continue to use this economic tool in a collaborative fashion, trying to get maximum effectiveness.
Right, and the Treasury said they identified over 50 virtual wallet addresses associated with one of the network's drug trafficking activities. As we said, obviously they worked closely with several countries: the Netherlands, United Kingdom. This is just another example that I don't think we talked that much about the value of sanctions outside of normal, money laundering, terrorist financing. This is an equally horrific crime, the spreading of illicit drugs. But you don't always think about this sort of drug trafficking and the proceeds of this drug trafficking as something that sanctions can address. And obviously, this is a perfect example of how they've done it very well. And this, they basically identified some online marketplaces, things on the dark web. This is really a very compelling case.
Yes, and in many respects, while not money laundering itself, in a sense, it's interdiction at the pre-money laundering stage, because once these ill-gotten funds do flow through the illegal channels, ultimately to make them really usable, some of them are going to be laundered.
Right. And as with all these actions, OFAC reminds people where to get additional information on how the sanctions process works. There's FAQs that's there. And they also do things like say, hey, if you want information on how to submit a request for removal from an OFAC list, how to do that. So there's a lot of really excellent information one-page press release.
Yes. The other thing that was interesting is it's clear that to get to the individuals who are named, there was a lot of excellent investigative work to look through a lot of entities, a number of which are listed in the press release, that are the actual, or the face entities of the activity. And it reminds us again of the importance of beneficial ownership registries,
Right.
and transparency of ownership, which clearly an organization like this would not like. But between the investigative groups in the three countries involved, there was a lot of terrific work. There were a number of UK-based and Netherlands-based companies, which I'm sure is why part of the reason they were involved in the cooperation. But it takes a village.
Right. And two of the individuals, Dutch nationals, they were arrested. And even though they were arrested, they continued to engage in the trafficking, generating millions of dollars in virtual currency from the proceeds through the website they identified was called therealrc.com, which is maintained by one of the two individuals. And they say something that I think we're well aware of. Visitors reach that site through advertisements on popular social media platforms. And that's how they purchased the fentanyl and the other illegal substances. But this tells you, again, using social media platforms, virtual currency, drug sale websites, obviously this stuff didn't happen 20 years ago. So there's unfortunately all these new mechanisms to move illegal products. And this is just, again, a really good example of how that works. And like you say, working together with the agencies in these other countries and the various agencies in our country, it does take all sorts of cooperation to be successful here.
Right. On that same vein, I was reading the IRS CI annual report, which came out within the last week or two. And one of the points of emphasis in that report was their international cooperative efforts, their foreign offices, but also all of the kinds of work they do with their counterparts in foreign countries to be able to have activity or successful investigations like these occur. Now, IRSCI wasn't specifically called out in this, and I don't know if they were involved, but just it reminded me, the FBI's IRSCI and a number of the other law enforcement agencies in the U.S. have extensive and effective international offices and activities, and recognizing that to the extent that crime ever stopped at our borders, it certainly doesn't anymore. And you really have to build those partnerships across boundaries, because the bad guys are absolutely not viewing the borders as any kind of something to stop.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So just a couple things coming up. You want to mention the webinar on the 17th of November, and I'll talk a bit about what's coming up in December.
Sure. So thanks for the lead in. So at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. GMT, will be our November webinar, and it's on countering terrorism financing. A great panel that's going to be led by Dennis Lormel, who many of you have seen on some of our other webinars and heard on our AML Conversations podcast. We're very excited about that. It's 1 hour, and you can register by going to our website, which is amlrightsource.com. And there's a landing page there, or if you scroll down a little bit, a little blue pop-up will come on the screen, and you can click on that. It'll take you right to the place to register. And John, tell us about December.
So in December, the theme is corruption, and we have two reporters, investigative journalists from the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, who are going to discuss various elements of global corruption, with also something that the acronym for the organization is OCCRP. They also have something called a Russia Asset Tracker, which is an interesting database that investigators use. So we talk a little bit about that, but also about the problem of corruption globally and some of the cases that they are investigating as we speak. So they promised us that in early December, a couple of things that they're working on will be finalized, and we'll break those stories. They'll break those stories on our webinar in December. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and that webinar is December 15th, and that's at also 1 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. and Canada, and at 6 p.m. GMT in the UK. So, John, you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.
Take care, Elliot. Stay safe.
Okay, bye-bye.